So yeah, I have a hand from you that I played at the at Aspas Casino. It's a £5, £10 game.
Okay.
Um, I am on the button with two black tens and with 3850 effective. I'm the effective stack.
Okay.
Um, just a quick note as well: the villain is a pretty tight player who on the night was losing. For him, would be a significant amount of money. He's down 4 or 5 thousand
Okay.
pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, so it falls around to me, and I'm on the button with two black tens, and I open to 30. And small blind folds, and big blind now three bets to 150, who's the villain. Um, and I elect to just call. So my first question is, do you prefer just calling here in position, or would you incorporate some four bets sometimes? Or
So you're saying that the background is that the guy might be tilted, or he's just down, right?
he's down, yeah. He's not
Yeah.
really. He doesn't really tilt that much, but
hmm
it's unusual for him to be this. This specific player. It's unusual for him to be losing. Sort of a couple of buy-ins.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time it's just a call. Even,
Okay.
you have position at this depth. Obviously, if somebody called in between, then it's a slam dunk, sort of four bet squeeze. Where
Okay.
if it was like some partials where you wanted to four bet, I'd like to try to do it against the guy that might be giving me some action because he's trying to, claw back,
Right,
so
sure.
some of those guys. So,
Yeah.
but I would say most of the time I probably would call, because remember, the big blind has a little bit of polarity here. One of the rarer senses of when you're three bet, sometimes a little bit polar, but maybe not at the stack depth, where he can just call with some medium strength hands here too, right? It's
Right,
not like he's
sure.
a small blind. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah, I like a call here a lot.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
So the flop comes. I think the pot's 305, and the flop comes nine of spades, eight of clubs, seven of spades.
Nine of spades, eight of clubs, seven of spades. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So big blind now bets 80, which for me in real time, for me, that this isn't the type
Wow.
of player who, for example,
80.
has ace king and now is continuation betting on this board. He would never do that.
Right.
So for me, straight away, I'm thinking, oh, he has like a good overpair, and I decide I'm gonna turn my hand into a bluff here and try and take control of the pot. So I re-raise him to 320.
So a couple things on this before
Yeah.
we get to your raise,
Sure.
because I think a lot of people might actually not choose to raise this particular hand. First of all, I do not think that this is a like c-bet 100 spot here for the big blind. Obviously, it's a late configuration open. He three bets, you call. This is probably checked a ton.
Right.
So he's betting really, really small here. And you have a hand that is obviously, I mean, maybe it's sometimes good against, two overcards and a spade draw. And you could also use it sometimes as a semi-bluff in a spot like this against somebody, with an overpair. It's interesting because of the small sizing used, because I have seen him a fair amount recently too. I remember Brad Owen doing it and studying the game quite a bit. Raising in position in three bet pots with some weaker holdings, some backdoor holdings, stuff like that, versus small leads. This
Right.
is obviously a little bit of a different board, but I can sort of see what you're saying in the sense that, if you truly, you have to understand that, is the guy going to come off of an overpair here? Because, the hands that make your hand here are all sort of the one-liners.
Correct.
So that those become scary boards. So that's the only thing that I would, kind of say here. Because are you going to go balls to the wall? If he calls your raise and then the turn's a deuce, are you just barreling on? Like, say that turns a deuce, you bet again, close to pot, and he calls, rivers a brick, like an offsuit three. Are you taking your showdown there, or are you just going to continue to just go
No,
balls to the
my
wall?
plan. Yeah, my plan was to bet three streets basically. If I hit cards that were either a spade, or else, for example, if I hit a card that was anything that didn't bring in the one liner, then my plan was just to barrel, and I thought that I could get him off an overpair by the river.
So Tim in the live chat said, did the caller say he raised to turn his hand into a bluff? This would be a semi-bluff.
Semi-bluff, yeah.
I think that I probably would I don't hate your raise versus this
Okay.
sizing, but I would consider, though, not going for 3 barrels, though, and sometimes either checking back turn or maybe making a block sizing on turn and then checking back on the river if you don't get there, something like that. I don't know if I would necessarily go, 3 streets here, because if he's calling down on turn, is he going to release on river on a brick? I mean, that's kind of what my thoughts are here.
Sure. Fair enough.
So big blind calls?
Yeah, big blind calls, and the turn is the 3 of hearts. And
Oh, there
big
you
blind,
go. I didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
even know. I was just sort of handpicking it. Yeah.
An absolute break.
Yeah.
Big blind checks, and I bet 550, and he elects to call again.
So this is where, so big blind checks and hero bets 550. I mean, I think this is where I would differ from you if I did raise the flop, where I might be I would either be taking a card here, or I'd be using a much smaller sizing here on turn to possibly get a showdown on the river. But it sounds to me like you're trying to 3-barrel.
Okay. Can I just say, I figured that if I did take a smaller sizing here in betting, then the pot wouldn't be big enough for me to be able to get him off a hand on the river, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but couldn't you go larger here on the turn, though?
Yeah, but in the games that I play in, most people don't overbet pots. It's an unusual thing. It doesn't...
what if you flop the nuts here, or you flopped a set? Like, say you had Jack 10 suited, or you had a set of 9s. Like, what would you have done? Like, how would you play this?
I think I would play it exactly the same.
You wouldn't put in more money here on the turn?
No, I don't think so. I'd want to keep him in. I'd be betting big enough for me to build the pot, but not big enough for him to be folding.
I would go so far as to say, again, I don't know this off the top of my head, but it would make sense to me that to stay sort of balanced, in a sense that you want to give him the least amount of price to call on with overpairs, that you would be betting close to pot with your semi bluffs and also with your thick value if you wanted to try to kind of stay balanced. Or I just feel like I don't know, besides that hand with Ben versus Garrett, when Garrett flopped the joint with a straight and Ben had kings.
Right.
And I was like, wow, Garrett's going to maximize, and Ben actually check folded to the pot size bet. A lot of guys are just going to stick around, so I want to try to get as much money in, as possible if I had a thick value hand against an overpair. But okay, so you go 550 pounds, and
yeah, he tanks for a bit, and then he calls again. So the pot is now 2,000, just about over 2,000, 2,025. And so I'm getting prepared to basically barrel on any...
You have just under a pot and a half size bet left, right?
Yeah, correct. And now the river is No, sorry. I have how much do I have left?
28, something like that?
Yeah,
or
27.
Correct. Yeah.
28,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now the river is the 10 of diamonds.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yes. So this is the major part of the hand that I really I was really confused. I didn't really know what to do now that this had happened. But in game, I thought, okay, well, if I put him on the overpair that I do have him on, I'm just going to bet big here and hope that he calls. Do exactly what I was going to do before. Maybe bet a little bit smaller than I would have done had I not got there.
The only thing that I'm going to say here, though, is that, if he's, who knows if this guy is structuring correctly or not, but a lot of times when you get to the turn here for him, I bet that a hand like Jack is sometimes called more often than
aces or
maybe
kings.
black queens or black kings with a spade, because of the because he has the additional equity to beat a set.
Sure.
And he's blocking Jack 10, so I don't think that you get to go balls to the wall here necessarily on this particular card. The other thing too is that now this river kind of changes things, where if he checks to you, I think I would think that your entire range of whether it's value or bluffs would probably be reflected a little bit kind of on the smaller side, maybe a 1/3 type of thing, something like that. Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking about here, especially if you want to guarantee some calls and stuff from overpairs. So,
well, this is where I made the mistake in the hand, because I bet 1,600.
So he checks.
he checks, and I bet 1600. And let me just say as well that when he does check, I'm thinking to myself, once the four liner comes in, again, that really confused me because I thought if he did have a hand like, for example, jacks or some form of, let's say, ace jack of spades or something like this that could have got to the river like this, why would they ever check? I mean, the majority of the time, I'm gonna just check back when it's a four liner on the board. So I just, I thought he definitely doesn't have it, and
Well,
that gave me the green.
while I do, somewhat agree with your observation, Sean, like in
Right.
reality and live play,
Sure.
depending on the level of play for this guy, you will see a lot of good players that against this action, no matter what they get here with at the end, they're gonna check. And the reason why they do that is because they want to keep it so that in other situations that you can't just blindly barrel them off. Because if they're always betting a jack at the end and they're checking when they don't have it, then that's incredibly easy to play with. So play against. So
Sure.
yeah.
So
Obviously, I think that your sizing here is. I would not take the sizing like I said.
You'd
but,
make
okay.
it much smaller. Okay.
I think so. I really do. I think so, and I also think that even with some bluff. I mean, the thing is that it's really hard for you to have like a ton of bluffs here too with this run out. It's quite interesting because if you were to look at some of the hands that you might make this play with, like ace, the bottom parts of hands like ace jack with a back door or front door, ace six, they all get there. I mean, I don't like ace five with a front, ace five of spades, maybe something like that. It's something like that. Okay, so you bet 1600.
I bet 1600, and he doesn't really think that much. Thinks maybe 10 seconds, and he just puts in four 1K chips. So he puts me all in.
Well, so how much is it now?
I think I've got like 1300 left. In my mind at the time, like I was thinking, well, if I had 2000, I'd probably fold now. But
so you bet 16 into 2, so it's 36, and then he jams all in for like 29 total. So 36 plus 29 is what? 36 plus 29 is what?
50.
So it's like 65, 13 for you to call?
Correct, yeah.
6,500, 13 to call. I mean, I don't know, man. That is if there's I mean, I know you're getting 5-1, but I don't. That is, and maybe you're. See, this is the thing. It's kind of the hand's kind of off the rails because probably the sizing here shouldn't really be like this. But man, I just don't know if you're good here. One six times,
right?
This is. Somebody in the live chat says we fold and villain shows queen. The whole blocker to like queen jack. But boy, these are some incredible pot odds. I must say.
No, I mean I couldn't lay it down at this point. I decided to call and listen. I mean, it was one of the strangest. I didn't expect to be good here at all, but he shows 9-9. He had pocket nines.
Well,
yeah.
I mean that is insanity.
What he said to me afterwards is, and I do believe him. I put in the 1600, but when I pushed the money in, I announced how much I put in.
Okay.
He was on the other side of the table, and he thought I'd gone all in. So he flicked in 4 1K chips. He said, when I saw you just thinking, I thought, what's happening?
Oh, okay. So that makes a whole lot more sense. So he thought you moved all in. Okay,
thought I moved all in. That makes put the money in.
That makes much more sense because if he actually had 9-9, there would literally be no reason to turn a bluff catcher into a bluff. But
a bluff, right?
So that's just you're just unlucky, basically, as to what happened.
I told him. I said, listen, if you told me in the hand that you didn't hear and I would have said, hey, you can take back your money, and I would have just called. But obviously he realized that I was close to folding then, so he just didn't say anything.
Wow, that is you're lucky. I said you're unlucky. I mean, you're lucky the way that it went down, but that's some crazy shit. Sean, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Not at all. Thank you very much, Bart. Take it easy.
All right. Thanks.